This video is part 2 of a 2-part series on how to loom knit a striped sweater. In part 1, we had knit the front and the back of the sweater, and we also seamed the shoulders together. Today for part 2, we'll work on the sleeves and we'll finish up any remaining seaming. Thank you for watching my channel, Ms. Yarn. Please support my channel by liking this video, by commenting, or by subscribing. I'd really appreciate that. Since we already did the body of the sweater in part 1, for part 2, we will cover the following steps. We will mark our loom, put front and back pieces on the loom, cast on the sleeve, do the garter stitch, do several decreases and color changes. We'll do the rib stitch cuff, the bind off, and we'll sew up the sleeves and sew up the sides of the body. To help us put the top part of our sweater back on the loom, let's mark our loom by dividing our 36 peg loom into 4 parts. Put tape between pegs 9 and 10, between 18 and 19, between 27 and 28, and I don't have to do anything between 36 and 1 because my anchor peg already separates those 2 pegs. Next, to help us decrease the sleeve, mark peg 7, which is a few pegs to the left of the anchor peg, and mark peg 31, which is a few pegs to the right of the anchor peg. Let me show you the first sleeve that I completed. You can see the ribbed cuff, you can see the slight shaping, and this part here is what needs to go back on the loom. Now that you've seen the first sleeve, let's work on the second sleeve together. It's important to be looking at the right side of the sweater, not the wrong side. Make sure the anchor peg is far from your body and that pegs 18 and 19 are close to your body. This white panel here will go on pegs 19 to 27. Bring the fabric to the center of the loom and identify the 9 stitches that will go back on the loom. Let's put that last white loop on peg 27. Let's put the first white loop on peg 19. Now pull on the rest of the loops so that that white panel is fully back on the loom. Excellent! Now the white panel is back on the loom. Let's move to the purple panel. The purple panel will go on pegs 28 to 36. Let's put a loop on peg 36 and a loop on peg 28. And then we'll put the rest of the purple loops back on the loom. Very nice. Now the purple panel is back on the loom. And now we need to go back to the shoulder area and put the other white panel back on the loom. You'll do this half on your own. The white panel will go on pegs 10 to 18, and the purple panel will go on pegs 1 to 9. So go ahead and do the remaining white panel and the remaining purple panel on your own, and let's meet when you're done. Here I'm just finishing up the purple panel on pegs 3, 2, and 1. And I just wanted to show you that sometimes it's not that easy when the loops are a little bit tight. I just stretched them out as much as I could to make it happen. And now the sweater is back on the loom. For the cast on, let's leave ourselves a tail of about 30 inches or so. Make a slip knot and put it on the anchor peg. Let's wrap peg 36 tightly and knit over. Let's continue these tight E-wraps until peg 1. Let's meet again once we've worked our way all the way around the loom. Here I'm just finishing up the cast on. And now we have casted on our sleeve. Since we're doing the garter stitch, for row 1, we will be purling from peg 1 to peg 36. Make this row in particular a little bit tighter than usual. Here I've jumped ahead to finish up the purling on my own. I'm purling on peg 36. And now row 1 is done. Now let's remove the slip knot from the anchor peg. And we'll do row 2 by doing the E-wrap knit stitch from peg 36 to peg 1. As you know, this 2-row repeat makes the garter stitch. So do this 2-row repeat on your own and complete 20 rows in total. We'll meet again soon to start the decrease. Here's a picture of what 20 rows should look like. Now for row 21, we're going to decrease our stitches so that our sleeve isn't too wide. Let's move the loops on pegs 1 and 2 to the left. Peg 3 should have 2 loops, peg 2 should have 1 loop, and peg 1 should be empty. It's looking good. Let's move to the other side of the sleeve. The loops on pegs 36 and 35 should shift to the right. Peg 34 should have 2 loops. Peg 35 should have 1 loop, and peg 36 should be empty. Now, to finish up row 21, we're going to purl from peg 2 to peg 35. 2 of the pegs will have 2 loops on them, but we'll just treat those 2 loops as if they're 1. Once you have completed these purl stitches on row 21, you will have decreased from 36 stitches to 34 stitches. Continue the garter stitch on your own by working these 34 stitches from peg 2 to peg 35 and complete row 21 to row 40. Now we're going to do our second decrease. We'll go from 34 stitches to 32 stitches. So we'll need to move our stitches towards the middle of our sleeve again. Move the loops on pegs 2 and 3 to the left. Peg 4 has 2 loops, peg 3 has 1 loop, and now peg 2 is empty. Now let's go to the other side. Peg 35 and 34 should shift to the right. Peg 33 now has 2 loops. Peg 34 has 1 loop. Peg 35 is now empty. Now, to finish row 41, you'll purl from peg 3 to peg 34. You'll be working 32 stitches. Let's meet again once you've finished this row because we're going to change colors. Now we're on row 42 and we want to change from white to purple. With the purple yarn, make a slip knot and put it on peg 36. This is just a temporary placement. Let's E-wrap from peg 34 to peg 3 as we normally would. The only difference is that the bottom loop is a different color from the top loop. Go ahead and work the purple rows on your own. You'll be completing rows 42 to 49. If you'd like to carry the white yarn up the side of the sleeve, rather than cutting it off and adding new white yarn back in, I'll show you how I do that in a moment. Here I'm finishing up row 43 by purling on pegs 32, 33, and 34. Now I want my old yarn, which is white, to be tucked into the next stitch. So to catch the white yarn, I'm crossing it over the purple yarn. Now let's start row 44 with an E-wrap knit stitch as usual. Once we knit over, that white yarn has been tucked in. If you prefer to carry the old yarn up the side in a different way, feel free to go ahead and do that. And if you prefer to just cut the yarn every time you change colors, that's fine too. Right now, this is row 44. Let's keep doing the garter stitch in purple until we have finished row 49. And don't forget to remove the purple slip knot from peg 36. Here I'm finishing up row 49, so I'm doing my last few stitches in purple. Now I'm cutting the purple yarn since we don't need purple anymore. So for row 50, let's drop the purple yarn completely and we'll do the E-wrap knit row in white. So let's do this white section on our own. Complete rows 50 to 57 in white. See you soon. Here I am on row 58. I'm changing from white to teal. Do the color change in the same way as before. And if you want, you can carry the white yarn up the side to avoid having too many ends to weave in. I won't be thoroughly explaining this step since you've seen color changes before, but I do want you to know that we should complete rows 58 to 60 in teal, and then we'll meet up again to do our third decrease. Now we're on row 61, and we're still doing the teal section. We're going to decrease from 32 stitches to 30 stitches to make our sleeve even more narrow. Move the loops on pegs 3 and 4 to the left. Then move the loops on pegs 33 and 34 to the right. Now that we've moved our stitches, let's purl for row 61. So we're working 30 stitches now. Let's continue the garter stitch until we finish row 65. So we're on row 66, and we want to change back to white. Let's cut our teal yarn and start using the white yarn. Let's complete rows 66 to 71 in white, and I'll suggest that row 71 be particularly tight. That's because we'll be decreasing by several stitches on row 72, and we don't want the stitches to be too loose. Let's meet again once we've completed row 71. You might notice that I have rainbow loom elastics on my pegs. That's to keep my stitches in place in case somebody moves my project. So using elastics like that is a quick tip that might give you some peace of mind. For the fourth and final decrease, we want to go from 30 stitches to 25 stitches. So to complete this step, which is on row 72, we need to do two things. Firstly, we need to walk the stitches towards the center of the sleeve so that they go from peg 7 to peg 31. Secondly, we need to do the unit stitch on those pegs. So I'm not going to show you how to walk all of the stitches towards the center. That would take too long. Just make sure the stitches go from peg 7 to peg 31. Those pegs are already marked on your loom. Put 2 loops on the following pegs: 8, 13, 19, 25, and 30. Now go ahead and move everything on your own. You can do it. Okay, so I have spent several minutes patiently walking every single stitch towards the middle of the sleeve. Now all of my stitches fall between peg 7 and 31, and that makes 25 stitches. Now it's time to do U-knit stitches from peg 31 to peg 7. So wrap each peg front to back and do not use E-wrap. Also, do your U-knit stitch a little bit more tightly than usual. Go ahead and finish this row on your own, and I'll see you soon. We're on row 73, and we're going to do a rib stitch cuff. Here I'm showing you the cuff from the first sleeve. We will be doing a knit 1, purl 1 sequence. Let's use a U-knit stitch, not an E-wrap knit stitch. So knit on peg 7, Purl on peg 8, and continue this 1 by 1 rib until you complete row 78. I'll see you when it's time to bind off. Before we bind off, let's look at our sleeve. We see the 2 colored stripes, and we see the ribbing. Now to bind off in pattern, let's go back to peg 7. Binding off in pattern is like merging the basic bind off with the knit 1 purl 1 sequence. To start us off, knit on peg 7. Now let's do the repeat. Purl on the even peg, move it to the right, knit over and move it to the left. Very good. Now knit on the odd peg, which is peg 9, move the loop to the right, knit over and move it to the left. Now keep following this repeat until you have finished binding off. Here I've jumped ahead and I'm just about to finish the bind off. Let's cut the yarn and leave about 30 inches or so. We'll use this tail for sewing up the sleeve. Let's pull out that last stitch, and now our sweater is off the loom. Let's have a look at our sleeve, and then we'll move on to seaming. So we're looking at the right side of our sleeve. Let's thread our needle and join the bar from the right edge to the bar on the left edge. Let's keep working our way up the cuff. Now let's gently pull on the yarn to tighten up the cuff. Okay, it looks great. Now let's sew up the garter stitch area. Join the frown on the left with the umbrella on the right. Now work your way up the sleeve, and once you get to the underarm, just secure things by tying a knot. So the sweater is inside out. And let's have a look at what the sleeve looks like now that it's been sewn up. To sew up the sides of the body, press the pieces together and join the V from one side to a single strand on the other side. And if you want to try another seaming method, just go right ahead. Just work your way all the way up the side, and when you get to the underarm, just tie a knot to secure things. And then you just need to weave in all of your ends, and your sweater is done. Thank you for watching this video on my channel, Ms. Yarn. This tutorial has been a real labor of love, and I hope you found it helpful. I'd love to hear from you in the comments.